and welcome to the 5th episode of the 2nd season of the podcast series here on We Are Respectable Negroes, what we affectionately like to call WARN. I am Chauncey DeVega. You may recognize my voice from Ring of Fire Radio with Mike Papantonio, the Joshua Holland Alternate Radio Hour, Tom Hartman, or the Ed Schultz Radio Show. In this very special edition of our podcast series here on We Are Respectable Negroes, I had the good fortune to chat with Mr. Bruce Boxleitner. He has starred in the legendary science fiction film Tron, the TV series Babylon 5, the detective drama Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and has done voiceover work for many video games and cartoons. I've been a fan of Bruce's work for years, and when the opportunity to talk with him was made available, I was thrilled. This really is a great Thanksgiving week surprise, one that I'm happy to share with the listeners to the podcast series here on We Are Respectable Negroes. In this conversation, Bruce Boxleitner and I talk about his career, mentors, approach to acting, his steampunk-inspired series Lantern City, and the upcoming TV movie Silver Bells, which will be debuting this Sunday, December 1st on the Up Network. I do hope you enjoy the show. Hello, Bruce. I first want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and chat with the podcast series here on We Are Respectable Negroes. I am a huge fan of your work. This is just really a wonderful opportunity, and one I so very, very much appreciate. You know, you make a list of things you want to talk to a guest about. And as the first question, I just kept coming back to the obvious. I was thinking about how even a few years ago, this conversation would likely not be happening. You know, we have social media, blogging, Twitter, and the Internet more broadly have really closed the distance between celebrities and their public and have allowed celebrities to communicate with their fans and the public with a lot of ease. Do you think that those changes have been for the better?
Yeah, I think so, and it's just a good way to garner fan support for projects and things like that. I think it puts you on a more personal level with people. They get a sense of you, how you are. Because most of the audience sees you in a production of something, and that's who they think you are. It's not. It's, you know, that's a character you're playing. But I think, and then the flip side, it's you get the whack jobs that, the problem with the social media is that it allows people uncensored criticisms and crazy things too. So, you know, but for the most, I think it's a very good and valuable tool in our business nowadays.
And I was thinking, too, I mean, you've had, you know, such great longevity, and here on the podcast, I'm always interested in process and how creative workers go about their work. And one of the things I'm just curious about for folks who've had longevity in their careers is, was your success, you've done Tron, you've done voiceovers for video games, you have a new project coming out, Lantern City, you have Silver Bells. Was your success and longevity just a happy accident and a fortune of hard work and just making good choices? Or did you actually at some point in your career sit down and say, here's my timeline, and here's what I'm going to do at this year, at this point, and then 25 years, once I get into my career, I'll be somewhere else? I mean, was it just a happy accident, or was it very intentional?
I think it's more of a happy accident. You know, I've been very blessed. I've had a long career, almost 40 years now, and it's been really big highs and not a heck of a lot of tremendous lows. I mean, I've just been one of those individuals that I've managed to many times be in the right place at the right time. I always kept myself prepared for what may come, and I try to really enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm hoping that the people I'm working with enjoy that too, enjoy my enjoyment. Very strong believer in having a good reputation in my business, so I've not tried to be a crazy man or something, or be controversial. That seems to be so in with some of my fellow actors. I've just tried to rely on doing the best work that I can with what I have, you know. I've been very fortunate, that's all I can say. I'm still doing it. That's what's kind of shocking to me yet, in a way, that I never pictured I'd be doing. I seem to be very, very active now, and I'm loving every minute of it, believe me.
Did you have a moment when you were young, because as we were talking about earlier, I went to theater school here in Chicago, and again, thinking about process around acting and learning one's craft, I remember a friend of mine who's an athlete said, you know, they can teach you to run better, but they can't teach you to run faster. So thinking about your career, I mean, what did you learn in theater school? Would you actually recommend that folks attend theater school, or did you have the natural chops and you just had to go and learn technique and then apply it across all these various projects?
I think you have to have the natural chops. There has to be something there. I don't believe acting can be taught. You either have it or you don't. Some of the greatest actors we've ever known, were untrained. You know, they somehow just managed to have that magic. It's a talent. I've always admired musicians. I'm not one. My sons are all very, very good musicians, but me, but I love music, and I envy people who can pick up a a piece of wood with strings attached to it and make incredible music. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I went to the Goodman Theater there when it was part of the Art Institute, the School of Drama. That was after I had left it. I started in local Chicago theater. It was something I started in high school out in the suburbs there, and it was something I said, this is what I want to do. I didn't know how I was going to go about it, and I relied on others to help me with that. I just tried to be in the position, be able to deliver the goods, that's all. You know, training, I took the training and the learning techniques and the language of acting and the process very seriously. And when I got out here to Los Angeles, eventually I'd been in New York, briefly in Broadway, and when I did finally come out to California, that decision, I felt I had a real leg up on a lot of my contemporaries here, but I did.
You mentioned the question about music earlier, you know, and you just admire folks who can play music. My father was a pretty well-known session musician. And I tried playing saxophone for some years. Yeah, he played with James Brown. He played with a lot of different jazz musicians and so on. So I remember one day I was, years and years of playing sax, and I remember one day he put his hand on my shoulder, and he was just like, Chauncey, you just ain't got it. You need to find something else to do. And I appreciated his honesty because I would have kept banging away at it. And I mean, thinking about your training here in theater school, as you said, if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. Do you have any particular mentors or folks along the way who shepherded you, either, you know, on stage, on theater, who put their hand on the shoulder and said, you know what, Bruce, you're doing this good, but fix this and change that?
Well, no, that they did that. It was sort of encouragement. Certainly at the Goodman, it was an excellent school. We did rub shoulders because it had a main stage production season. It was repertory theater, so we, as students, and it was during a very tumultuous time in the late 60s, early 70s. But, it was an exciting time to be in Chicago, certainly, in many ways. But also having these professional actors. I remember meeting and watching a young Christopher Walken play Henry David Thoreau in a wonderful play called The Night Thoreau Spent in Jail on our main stage theater every night. He was part of a season of wonderful professional actors that came in. And so we had that access right there to see what it's like to be those people and ask questions, and to observe. And I remember watching him every night from the wings because I was part of the stage crew. To earn extra money, I helped strike the sets at night and get them ready for the next evening's performance. And it was great watching Christopher Walken, who I think we all love. He's had such a great film career. How the young Christopher Walken went about his process before that curtain went up at night. And so it was a magical time for me. I've had mentors along the way. James Arness, I always say, when I got my first big breakout here in the miniseries thing called How the West Was Won, which is playing right now on the Westerns channel, on Stars Westerns. He was a huge influence on me just by his encouragement. He was partly responsible in picking me for the role of his nephew in that series, and watching by example how it was to be a star of a television series, how you deported, how you carried yourself, what your behavior was, how important your role as the star of the show was on the daily work of creating a television series. Those are two of what I mentioned. There were many people along the way. There's so many,
And what do they say? Failure has no parents, and success has many folks who want to claim it. I totally butchered that quote, but the sensibility is communicated. I'm thinking, too, sort of thinking about your new project that you have coming out. And again, I just want to thank you and your folks for reaching out to me to chat here on the podcast. So you have a new project called Silver Bell, which will be on the Up TV network in December. And again, just being honest, whenever I hear the phrase family entertainment, I become immediately nervous because sometimes that is marketing code for wholesome, but not very good. And I got to tell you, I watched the film 2 days ago, and I was very, very impressed. So again, thinking about process, Bruce, what attracted you to the project? Was it the chemistry between the characters? Was it the story arc for your character through redemption and change? And when you looked at the script, what made you say, you know what, I want to do this?
I just immediately liked it. I smiled. And I liked the character. He was wonderfully over the top in the beginning, and his journey was interesting. And you know what? Hey, I'm a sucker for stories of of redemption, that goes deep ingrained in me, I guess. He fell from grace in his community, in the eyes of his son, his wife and daughter, everybody around him, and he found his way back through the help of a wonderful, by the way, Huggy Bear, Antonio Vargas. I love Antonio. I loved his work, and it was just something about it. We shot it in 2 weeks, if you can believe it, Chauncey.
Wow!
Outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan, in a town called Manatee, Michigan, and then we shot the TV station stuff in Grand Rapids, and there was just something sort of Capra-esque about it to me. I don't want to be too highfalutin here, but sort of a Frank Capra movie, with Jimmy Stewart. You know what I'm saying? It's a Wonderful Life type of story, and it's once in a while it's good to do a feel-good story. We are in a very cynical age that we live in, and I think the television landscape is fairly cynical with dark, edgy characters, zombies, serial killers and everything like that. Once in a while, I think you have to have something that people can relate to in their real lives. I'm a father of 3 strapping young men, and I identified a great deal with that father-son dynamic in the story as well.
And you mentioned, this idea of sort of Capra-esque, and you're spot on with the sort of cynicism. We have a horrible economy. We have a lot of young folk being asked to grow up faster than they should. There really is a space in the market for great programming like Silver Bells. But again, going back to your technique, you read the script and immediately jumped at you. The character jumped out at you. Are you a method actor, or did you just have to sort of draw on your own human experience and say, this guy is sort of like me, he's totally not like me? How do you inhabit that space as an actor?
I do that, exactly. It's just something I said, I could do this. I know this guy. There's some of me here. I'm a very competitive man. I wouldn't be as far as I am without being competitive. It's a very competitive business. I'm very well aware of the people that I compete against for roles and that sort of thing. Now, I just saw Bruce Delta. He's amped up even a little bit more than I am. I found him very relatable to my own life, and I said, I could do this guy. This could be fun. See what I could do with him. And his name was Bruce. Come on, Chauncey.
So how could you go wrong?
Yeah, I'm not going to go wrong. It's all about me all the time, so.
That's a great, and that's a natural lead. You write down a list of things you want to ask somebody whose work you admire. And not to sound too much like a sycophant here, but I'm a huge fan of your work. The very famous Bruce Lee, and you may have seen this quote. Bruce Lee did a documentary right toward the end of his life, and he talked about why he's not a star. And he said, a star is something out there, and I'm a real person who's right here. So do you think of yourself as a star? Certainly folks will seek out your work, but when you look in the mirror in the morning and say, I'm a star and I have to inhabit this space, or do you really try not to say, I'm a star? I'm just a regular guy who happened to get lucky. How do you manage that for yourself?
I think it's more the latter there. I feel I've been very blessed and lucky, but I made sure that, I could bring something to it when it's called upon. Stayed ready, But I don't think the word star is a tough one for me. I'm told by my people that I work with I shouldn't be so self-deprecating all the time. I don't know. I always felt that I was a really good team player. I knew my part on the team, and I did it to the best of my ability to contribute to the whole project. And that's the way I still look at it. I always, at the very end, applaud the crew when they say, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. I always want to ask the actors to lead me in applauding the crew, because they're people that they're as important, if not more important, than we are in front of the camera. But for my own life, I get up I don't think I've even combed my hair today. So, that's how much of a big star I am. Wow.
You're a star. You don't even have to comb your hair anymore. You're just like, that star thing doesn't matter. I'm just a regular guy. I don't even need to comb my hair.
I don't think you can say you're a regular guy, because to other people what we do is not a regular thing, but I guess I just have more of an idea of, at the end of the day, we're entertainers, this is what we do, and is it the most important thing in life? Could we do without it? I don't know. Those are other questions, but I want to be a regular guy in my life, and it's tough. For all of us.
It's so easy to give in the ego. I had another very quick question, too, along the same line. Thinking about, you've done sci-fi, you've done westerns, Tron, video games, and so on. If you had to give advice to your younger self, if you could make a time machine and go back to the beginning of your career before you chose this path, what would it be?
I should have taken RoboCop. And there it was in my hands, and I could have had a good shot at it, and I should have said, yes, let's do it. I want to do it. But when I read the first script, it said, you didn't see the actor's face for how long. And I said, well, oh, my God. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding about that. So if I had to talk to my younger self, I'm not sure. I guess it would have been just to keep doing what you're doing. And I think what somebody said about Humphrey Bogart eventually. He said that if you just keep working, eventually they're going to look at you and go, my gosh, he must be pretty good. He's still here. I've always said I want to be, I'm shooting for the last man standing. I've just had a wonderful career. Could have been better. Yeah, maybe so. It could have been a lot worse. So I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm still here. I'm 63 years old, and I'm still working where a lot of my contemporaries, not so much.
That's right.
And the guys that I came up with, they were all the young studs at the time, and some aren't. And but that's this business.
And since you broached the subject, you mentioned RoboCop, Peter Weller. Amazing acting job. You can't even see his face in the movie, and it's a classic. If you don't mind sharing, what are some roles you turned down that in hindsight you wish you hadn't? Where you just like, you know what, that was a huge mistake. Or alternatively, roles that you were like, you know what, I should have taken that, and I'm glad I didn't, or vice versa.
I never really had those great luxuries of things that I turned down that turned into huge things. Other than that was very close. I was in contention for that one. RoboCop at the time, there was a lot of interest, but probably Peter Weller had it, no matter what, and that's great. It went on. The other thing I remember being one of the many, many, many people that were up for, looked at least for the role of Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars franchise. And there's probably 1,000 of us because they were looking at all the new faces, the young up-and-coming actors at the time. I believe Mark Hamill had done a pilot for TV, 8 is Enough, for one of those series at the time. Could have gone either way for him, and he'd gone on with television. Anyway, when Tron came along, I realized it didn't get Luke Skywalker, and this kind of looked a lot like something Star Warsian, because we didn't know what it was at first when I met the people on it. I met Steven Lisberger and the casting people. But I knew there was something about it that was interesting and fun, and that Jeff Bridges was doing it. My God, I would have. And I didn't hesitate there. I said yes right away. So, I don't know, I've been very, very, very blessed. That's all I can say.
So you had Silver Bells, which would be forthcoming. And I'm just curious about your future work. I was lucky enough to see you on a panel for Lantern City at C2E2 here in Chicago, and I'm really excited about that project. What can folks look out for?
Well, and that's come along really well, and we are I'm not going to really mention where, but we've got it at a very good place right now. We're waiting on them to give us an answer, but we are in the pitching stage right now, which we've got it out to a major player. Seems very excited about it, so I'm very enthusiastic about that, and but we've yet to hear. So that's the agonizing part. You've got to sit and wait on other people, And I still my Cedar Cove TV series has just been it was picked up this last month for a second season, so I'll be going back to Vancouver in the end of February, I guess. And there's been a lot of talk about Tron 3, and hopefully that'll come sometime soon. That's been in the works for a while. I'm not the first one to say that, so hopefully I'll have a good part in that. So those are the things I know of right now, Chauncey. Anything can come along, That's what's exciting about this business. It's always, so what's next and what could it be?
Yeah, as I said, the Tron project is amazing, too. You have such a full plate, and being mindful of your time, I'm just so appreciative of you reaching out to us for the podcast here on We Are Respectable Negroes. This is just a wonderful conversation, and certainly I'm looking forward to seeing Silver Bells on TV, and it was just a privilege to sit down and chat with you.
Thanks, Chauncey. It's always good to talk to you, too.
All right, thank you very much.